man speaking in the city square, trying to tell somebody that he cares. Can you blame the voice of youth for asking what is true? Yeah, the ones that you're calling wild are gonna be the leaders in a little while. When will the lonely voice of youth cry, what is true? This our world's waking to a newborn babe, and I solemnly swear it'll be their way. You better help that voice of youth find what is true. And the lonely voice of youth cries, what is true?
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Muppet Madness. Because there's so much going on, picking one topic would have been absolutely criminal. So I am here with Polly. Polly has a nice little perch now. She rather likes it. So hopefully she won't get tired. That is the goal of the perch. Maybe if with a perch, and proper cloth so she doesn't make a mess, all will be well. We'll find out. It's going to be a fun trip. So I've got my Sampal here, right? My big bottle. Got the Muppet cup, which also has some Sampal in it. Have you considered? You should buy a mug too, because they're quite mug like. And I got some tea. I've got some ginger turmeric lemon tea, which is quite nice. Quite nice indeed. And we've got the aphorisms that are Procrustes here. So let's see what Taleb has to offer us wisdom-wise today. Half of suckerhood is not realizing that what you don't like might be loved by someone else, hence by you later. And the reverse. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. The world is a varied place. And I think it's a good theme for this for Muppet Madness. The world is a varied place. And that's what you're seeing right now in the world. Is you're seeing the variation, and you're seeing all of these ways of understanding the world, and ways of seeing the world, and ways of putting the world together, and ways of, quote, making sense of the things that are happening. And there's so many of them. And that's where, we go back to the relevance realization point. Which ones are relevant and which ones are irrelevant. And that is what we're stuck in. We're stuck in a flood of sense making. There's so many ways to make sense of the world. And there's so many people giving you sensible ways to understand the world. And then you have to sort them, basically. And I see Jonathan Peugeot is still on his little World War II, myth of World War II talking point, which is great. I, of course, did the video on that. I'm going to release the monologue as a static video there, a recorded video soon. So the myth of World War II will come up again on the channel. It just won't be new if you watch the live stream. And if you didn't, it will be new because you won't have seen the live stream. So the other interesting thing that's happening is John Vervaeke is out on the Silk Road for real, like the philosophical Silk Road, according to him. So I guess he's in Istanbul or something, and he did a live stream from there today. Thanks, RJ, for finding that and sharing it on the Discord server. And I gotta say, like, he just I don't know what happened to John, but my goodness. We tried so hard to make sure that things like this wouldn't happen, but it did anyway. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Yeah, he was out there saying, pilgrimages work. It's like, well, they've been doing them for thousands of years, so I kind of suspected that might be true. It was a thought that I had. Um, of course, RJ wants citations, right? I think that would be appropriate to ask John. Like, can you give us citations for your thesis that pilgrimages work, please? That would also be funny and trollish, but what can you do? So yeah, I mean, we're stuck in this world where pretty much everybody is giving you every silly theory about the world that they have, and they all make sense logically because it's not hard to make sense of something logically 6 different ways to Sunday. It's just also not helpful. Womp womp. And that's part of the problem. Lots of things are logical but wrong. So we're sort of stuck in this logical consistency hell. Uh, and everyone's got their own little thesis. And now we've got AI, which is just making everything worse. Talk about a flood. I mean, the number of things you can do with AI flood wise is just completely ridiculous. So we've got all this talk about AI. I mean, people are still talking about AI as if it's going to become sentient tomorrow. And it's just like, no, no, that's not how that works. Like, it's just math. It's really honest to goodness, just math. I don't know why people seem to, I tweeted out something to this effect earlier today. Uh, People seem to think that more information equals more intelligence. And then when you hit a point of intelligence, you just have a soul and then you're a creature or something. But that's very age of gnosis, right? That's very, and let me know what you think of this thesis. So maybe I should call age of gnosis the age of literacy because it's, the age of gnosis is being facilitated through literacy. It's through words and letters, right? And numbers, but not knowledge, because knowledge is way above that, and not understanding, and not uh not anything, certainly not wisdom. Everybody's noticed that part. Well, it can't be wisdom. And that's sort of the problem, is people don't sort of realize, like, none of this stuff is working because you're starting from these weird assumptions. You broke soul down into parts, focused on one part of the soul, that's located in the brain, apparently, called it consciousness, which is a made up term by Cudworth. And now you think if you increase the consciousness, because you can do that through apparently just knowledge or something, but of course you're not talking about knowledge. You're using the word knowledge, but you're describing information. And so if you just give it more information, suddenly it will become sentient. But sentient is just life, right? It's just being. And so information stuffed in, enough information stuffed into a space just bears life. Like, I don't think that's how that works. Like, I don't know. And so you can see the pattern playing out of, people trying to play God. And you see that with AI, you see that with virtual reality, you see that in computers, right? Like, we get everybody online, we'll make our money online, right? Dependent upon electricity, right? We'll get everybody participating online. I was like, who's running this online stuff? I have a Friday morning meetings that I do with some local folks mostly. And they were like, yeah, well, China this and China that. And I'm like, well, we'll bring it all back to the United States. And I'm like, no, you won't. Because you've already passed laws making it illegal to do mining. So you're not going to mine for lithium if you can't mine for coal. And because we couldn't mine for coal, we had to shut down the Bethlehem steel plant. And now we don't make steel in the US anymore. Now we're completely dependent on China for steel and all these rare earth minerals. Yeah, if you can figure out a way to mine them safely, maybe. But even then, you've got to process them safely. And we haven't figured that out. And even then, like, it's on and on and on. And I was explaining to them, like, people died at the Bethlehem steel stacks. Like, they died. Like, it happened all the time. It wasn't like a super rare occurrence. So that's the problem. That's the problem. And I don't think people realize what's going on. Like, we are using other nations, particularly African nations and parts of China as human capital slave labor, so that we can have our fancy electronics, particularly our phones. Um, that's what happened. Like that already happened. Uh, and I don't think we can go back as easily as people think. I mean, eventually we'll go back, probably the hard way, and probably all the way back, and there won't be any more fancy phones. And even if you have one, it won't work because it takes a lot of towers and electricity and all this other stuff. Um, it's an issue. It's a real issue. And I think the madness is around all these people talking about all these things. And they're all using, different language to talk about basically the same pattern. And, eventually they tend to converge, but it's taking a long time. It's going to take longer. Things are going to get a lot worse. I have no idea why we're keep switching to, yeah, let's do a war in the Middle East again. Look, we should just glass it over just so it gets out of the news. Like, that's all I want. I just never want to hear about foreign countries again. That would be great. That would be a super upgrade to the entire United States. Pull all the troops out and just let them do what they're going to do for a while. Like, I'm not saying never interfere, but like, at least let them get it rolling, right? And then see where it ends. Then we can go back in. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We did it with Ukraine. Now we have to shift resources. And why? Why? We got problems at home. We had to call the National Guard out for California. Seems like we should bring all the troops home and just be done with that and see how it plays out. Yeah. So I watched, yesterday was my birthday. So I got Enter the Dragon for my birthday. Well, I love Enter the Dragon. So we watched the Blu-ray, and that was a nightmare. No electronics work. It's like, why is this taking 20 minutes to do anything, right? So we got the Blu-ray. It's a nice Blu-ray, actually. The captions work and everything. It's really cool. Just the Blu-ray player is slow. So I'm watching this movie, and of course I've seen it many times before because, of course, it's a great movie because all Bruce Lee movies are great, as everybody well knows. If you don't know that, you're probably dead. So the Brits in the movie are clowns. Like, it's slow bureaucracy, and they don't do anything. They just make a phone call, and then something happens, and he calls the general, he calls the colonel or whatever, and the colonel's like occupied, and he's like, I don't care, and he's like, yeah, but you think he's with somebody? I don't care. Call him anyway. We got to get the troops moving. It's funny that they're the bumbling fools and Enter the Dragon. I was just like, yeah, I had kind of forgotten about that theme, but it's not something I normally watch a kung fu movie for the kung fu, right? Not for the silly political statements and the poking at the Brits, but it's there, and it was funny to watch and recognize because it's not like I hadn't seen it before, but everything's front and center now. All the things that were hidden are now revealed, and I think that's a lot of what you're seeing. And listening to John from Istanbul on the live stream today talk about like being tired, participating with Jonathan Peugeot and spending a lot of time eating meals and all this stuff. And I was just like, bro, like, you did a whole thing with participatory knowledge. What do you think this is? Why is this surprising? Like, weren't we doing this back in 2020? Like, I don't get it, you know? And everyone's like, oh, online's the same. And they get offline and they go to freaking Istanbul and now it's different. And I'm like, really? I'm shocked. And I think that's part of it is people are realizing these online world that we're being sold and also trying to buy, both reciprocal, um, is not, it's not the thing. And it's not great. And it's just, degrading things. So I don't know. I think that's, all the stuff we're seeing. People are reversing their decisions on everything. Just one day it's X and the other day it's Y, and then it's back to X, and people can't draw connections. I mean, clearly, Raviki's a good example, right? Talks about distributed cognition. Okay. What does that mean through time? Well, they don't talk about through time. I wonder why. Oh, weird. It's almost like things aren't alive for them and they're living in a flat world. right? Oh, well, if distributed cognition is true through time, which it would have to be because time is real, I think. I don't know. I don't know where else to go with that. Then all kinds of things become like the fact that pilgrimages have survived. I mean, you're an evolution believer, bro. Like the fact that pilgrimages have been going on for thousands of years. Of course they work. Like I don't know. So you think something's been going on for thousands of years that doesn't work, and you think evolution is true at the same time? No, you don't. Like, come on. Like, why is this hard? This isn't hard. Do you really believe in evolution, or do you want the ontology of biology that you think was useful, but actually wasn't, at least not to the degree they sell it at, to be true, so that you can, apply ontology to everything. Another thing John said in the talk, which I thought was really funny, he said, our ontologies are flat. And I was like, our ontologies are like the process of making a scientific ontology, a categorization, is the process of dissecting and flattening something. So yes, all ontologies are flat, John. That's axiomatically true. I don't understand like why you're shocked. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. I just don't understand why people are stupid all of a sudden. Like everyone's gotten dumb. But I think it's the revealing, right? They reach the end of their thinking, right? They reach the end of their cognitive capacity or the capacity of their system. And then they start babbling because like they can't keep consistency because their system is so small, it doesn't encompass the world. Ansem and work for what? Yeah. Well, I mean, what do pilgrimages work for? I I don't know, to make you a better person, I guess. I mean, they work for all kinds of things. Um, but I mean, the context really he was just referring to, it ain't nothing, right? It's a something. It's like, well, no kidding. If it didn't do anything, people wouldn't do it. And if the thing it did wasn't really good, because pilgrimages suck, they're hard. Then people wouldn't do it, and they wouldn't keep doing it through time. Like, I don't understand why this is surprising at all, but I mean, he's genuinely surprised. I'm just like, wow. But that's what happens when you reach the limits of your worldview and you've, laid it all out and, awakening to meaning crisis or whatever, maps of meaning, or it doesn't even matter. These guys all suffer from the same problem. And then, like, there are things way outside of it, and you can't fathom those things, especially if you add time. Like the adding of time component is actually kind of a big deal. Um, None of these people add time. I think again, I think I've said this before, but I think it's easy to tell an ideology from, we'll say, a true philosophy or a useful worldview. Uh, Ideologies don't account for children, and children require the understanding of change over time, right? Or development over time. And the fact that development isn't a straight line, because some kids go backwards, right? Some people are smarter when they're 12 and then they lose it when they're teenagers. Like that happens. And so if your so-called philosophy doesn't account for children, it's an ideology. I mean, this is one of the perfectly legitimate critiques of Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand doesn't account for children at all. Like nothing in her so-called philosophy. This is why I don't think she's a philosopher. Accounts for children at all. But that would go for Kierkegaard and Kant and all these other clowns, Nietzsche, all of them, Heidegger. They don't account for children. Not Plato, though. Plato does. That's kind of one of the driving forces of the Republic. Is that because children, forbidden knowledge must exist. And therefore, we need to manage the knowledge and we can't give it to everybody. I mean, that's one of the theses in Plato's Republic. Like, it's right there. Like, you can't just tell everybody everything, moron. Like, he's that's one of the driving factors of how he lays out the city before he starts laying out the city. That's one of the driving factors. We have children. Children can't be told everything all at once. Therefore, okay, you have a philosophy, sir. Thank you. Does anybody after you, however? Oh, no, nobody, none of them. Zero of them. Okay, fair. Also, what are you doing? And why are you calling it philosophy? Right? So this is and this is like I just see this stuff so clearly, and I'm like, why doesn't everybody else see this? But and I think it is about sight, but it's more about, as I said in my previous live stream, comprehension. Everyone's literate. They've got, letters, numbers, and words, but nobody has comprehension. They can't put them together coherently. And so they do silly things like they use the term co-emergent or no, sorry, co-equal. And I'm like, co-equal. What does that mean? What do you mean co-equal? Like you can't talk like that. That's ridiculous. You can't destroy the English language by doing that because you do. You destroy comprehension. You destroy sensibility. You destroy the ability to make sense of the world when you use terms like co-equal. There's such thing as co-equal. That doesn't make any sense. And it can never be made any sense of. Now, the fact that you can find a way to make it work is a different problem. And there's the other thing. There's a great quote in the live stream where John says, if we don't hang together, we are going to fall apart. I don't know, it seems kind of axiomatic to me, but like, I mean, I guess yes. I can't disagree with that. Right. But what is the thing that we'll say motivates us to hang together, even though, look, we've got, even in this stream, I mean, we've got Anselman. Like, who can deal with this guy? What's causing us to hang together, Anselman? No, I mean, there are difficult people in the world. How do we hang together? Oh, huh? What would we call the? Here, I'll let me see if I can do this. This will be fun. What do we call the group of psychotechnologies, right? That allows us to implement new tools, right? That exact out not only to give us better personal and interpersonal relationships, but also better parasocial relationships, so that we can hang together, so that we don't fall apart. Well, I would call that religion, by the way, but whatever, you call it whatever you want. All these silly words. I didn't use any of them wrong either. They're just silly. And then it's not wrong, right? Except my conclusion would be rejected by all of them. Like, oh, you used the God word. Oh no, religion. No, religion is bad. It caused all the wars. It's like, well, technically, yes. It also caused all the good things too, though. So I don't know. Still causing them. I think I talked about this before. I fed into the AI. Explain to me, AI, the difference between war from, say, 1000 AD up until the Protestant Reformation and the difference from the Protestant Reformation until now. And that story was catastrophist. It was like the AI, with no prompting from me, came to the conclusion that war has just basically increased, and it's moved away from the containment and to the wider world. And yeah, it's just all bad. Like the Reformation was a disaster. Hanselman. Co-equal simply means it can't mean anything. It can't even have a proper definition because you're misusing the English language badly. It means equal with one another. Yeah, you know what else means equal with one another? Equal. Like, you don't need the co. Right? Equal still means equal, right? Equal with another, right? It's actually not good English at all. It does not have it does not have purchase with English language at all. There's no co-equal, right? And it wouldn't be co, right? Like if you're co, you can't also be equal. Like it's no, and you don't need to be. Like I don't understand why equality or equal is even in use. It's a mathematical term. Like it should be used in math. And there was another thing. Like you see a lot of people just using bad math and applying it to non-math things all the time. John did this in the live stream. He was saying, "Well, you can't prove X from Y." He's like, "But you can, because you can prove Y from X, and I'll show you for every X that you can." And I was like, dude, this is the transitive mathematical property, and we do not live in a symmetrical world. So no, that's not true. It's false, and you can't do that because it can't be done. Which is why he didn't do it. But there's always people say, "Well, I could do this." It's like, okay, then please carry on. I'm right here. Just do the trick. They don't do the trick because they can't do the trick because it's a lie. They want it to be true, but it's a fundamental lie. And everyone's doing this. You'll notice if you listen closely, everyone's making everything equal. Everything, everything. You could say like the Democrats took money from the big corporations, and yeah, but the Republicans took money from big corporations too. It's like, okay, but did they take the same amount? Was it the same number of them? Right? Because that matters. Like that's what matters. The fact that there are no, say, perfect, hard and fast rules in the world, and therefore the foibles of humans exist anywhere human groups are separate is not interesting to me. Like, really, there are corrupt Republicans and corrupt Democrats. Huh? You'd think they'd have something in common, like being people or something. That would explain it. Then you don't need to use like a designator like Republican and Democrat when you're describing human behavior. You could just say, yeah, this is standard human behavior for people. Now you could say how many bad people are in a group, right? As a percentage. Oh, I see. It's 90% bad on the Democrat side. That might be a hint. It might be a hint. Look at all the pedophiles over there. That might be a hint. Oh, there's 10 snakes in that pit. That might be a hint. Like I don't know what to tell you. I think that's why it's important to know good, bad, and evil. Right? I mean, things can be bad without being evil. Right? They have to be. I think that's part of the problem is that we're not recognizing these formulations. We're not recognizing the fact that difference matters, and what we should be arguing about is difference and how much it matters, or how much of a difference matters, or when is the line crossed on the difference. These are all valid, good questions that still no one's asking. They're looking for a system like, okay, the myth of World War II is, being revealed or broken down or whatever. What do we replace it with? And it's like, oh my goodness, like what? No. And also, I was thinking about this earlier today while watching Jonathan Peugeot on this latest chat about World War II, and I was just like, I think you guys are missing the point. You got to give people who will say are unsophisticated thinkers a way to understand the world that can make sense to them so that they do the right thing without having to understand the complexities of the thing they're involved in. Like you have to do that in software engineering. You have to do that in factory management. Like you just have to do that. And you could say, rightly, that's condescending. Yeah, it is. That's a great gift from above. And it's a good thing. Like people should talk to you at the level that you can understand, and they should not talk above your head. Like I don't know why this is controversial. Right? What most people call condescension is arrogance. But we fail to see arrogant people all the time too. And we fail to see, Taleb tweeted said a couple of weeks ago, we fail to see circular reference. Circular reference is bad. It's an indication of a problem, just like contradiction, just like paradox. See a contradiction or paradox, something's wrong. What's wrong is not relevant. Do you have to resolve the contradiction or paradox? Maybe not. But something's wrong. I mean, it might just show you the limits of your system. So go with, I think it's Meno's paradox, right? Where you can't ever touch a wall because you can always divide the distance in half, and therefore there's no point at which you can touch the wall. It shows you the limit of a system of measurement. Systems of measurement cannot account for touching. Period. That's what that tells you. It doesn't tell you anything else. It just tells you the limits of that system. That's all it does. It's not a big deal. It's not a paradox. It's fine. It's fine. It's only a paradox if you stay stuck in the frame of measurement. Yeah, measurement only goes so far and it only does so much. And once measurement's done, it's done. It can't do certain things in the same way science can. And if you can't see that an ontology is gotten at by dividing up, dissecting the world, then I don't know what to tell you about how you think, but it's not good. That's for sure. And then you go, we have a flat ontology. All ontologies are flat because they that's how you get an ontology. You flatten something. That's what categorization is. And you can't then go back and say, no, I mean big O ontology, and being. Being was never flat and cannot be flattened. So now I'm just confused. And our ontology is not flat because our ontology is being, and being is not flat. This isn't that hard. Like, I don't know why people are making it hard. This is 0% hard. Like, either you're talking about scientific ontology categorization, or you're talking about something else. And if you're talking about something else, you're using the wrong word. Like, use the right term so I understand what you're saying. And then you'll be wrong anyway, but that's a different. Like, John just wants science to be the thing, and science isn't the thing. And everybody wants like a new class, or like if we just taught this instead of that. And it's like, education is how we got here. More of it will make it worse. I don't know why this is a controversial take or why this isn't obvious, right? But also, this is pretty easy. It's really simple stuff. And that's been the problem all along, is that people are making problems where they didn't exist before and don't need to exist now. None of this is hard. None of this is difficult. None of this takes a lot of research. It doesn't take a lot of brains. The more PhD you have, the less likely you are to understand it, because it's easy. And if you have a PhD, you put in a lot of work to being wicked smart. And you want it to be easy, because then who are you? And what's your education worth? Your education was always worth nothing, by the way. Nothing. Waste of time. People who do things in the world without knowing anything are far more valuable than people who know everything but do nothing. It's just that simple. It's an asymmetry. They're not co-equal or equal or anything. It's different, and it matters. And it's the only thing that matters in that scenario. Doing things matters. That is how matter manifests, and not doing things doesn't matter. Read 4 more books. No one's going to know or care. And that's always been the problem. Like, people want their books to be valuable, their knowledge to be valuable. I've got all this stuff in my head. I want it to be valuable. Well, I want a pony. It's disappointment all around, I guess, because get over yourself. And that's the problem. These people very much want that to be the thing. They've been told they're smart. They want smart to be valuable. They don't want work to be valuable because they're lazy and they don't want to work. I mean, no one wants to work, right? Like, it's horrible. But then you end up beholden to China. And you get all upset because China's got all this. They've got all the workers. That's what they have. And they don't have silly environmental laws to prevent people from working, so you can't mine coal anymore to make steel. You got the coal and the iron ore right there in the mountains in Pennsylvania, not too far away. You take them down to the refinery, right there in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and you produce a bunch of steel, and then you're right near 2 big ports. You ship it out. Nope, shut down the coal mining. Oops, steel plant closes. A few years later. Shocker, right? Because that system relies on all the other pieces, right? You can't just remove a piece. It doesn't work. It causes a problem. And things have been deliberately, knowingly, with forethought and malice, dismantled. They have been. There's no question about it. They have been dismantled on purpose by bad people who are also evil in some cases, not in all cases. Sometimes people do bad things because they're fooled into thinking they're good things. Evil, however, I would argue, you can't fool somebody. Right? This is sort of like Peterson talked about this a while back. He said, he was talking about Michel Foucault. And he said, he used to take young boys into the graveyard and do horrific things to them. And he said, like, he must have known because he went to the darkest place to do the darkest thing. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but that's basically what he said. And I was like, yeah, You knew what you were doing. Like, people know evil, but we have lost that. People do not know the difference anymore. People who used to know the difference yesterday have lost that. I don't know why. I don't quite like. I still haven't figured out like what the hell is actually going on here. I mean, you want to say spiritual warfare is the best frame ever, then I'm sympathetic. Um, like, it's strange the way things have gotten and how bad they have gotten. It is very, very hard to credibly accuse an obvious evil person of doing an obviously evil act. And that's one of the issues. And, like, I again, see, like, how do we get along with difficult Scotsmen? Uh Anselman, I think that was true in the past, but you know what, man? I mean, I know much evil is wrongly excused as being incompetence. It, it's worse now. It's actually any bad thing that happens is being excused by conditions, because competence, you can't impugn anybody's competence anymore, because in the age of gnosis, competence is associated with knowledge, and so that's the highest value, and so nobody's incompetent. I mean, the number of times I've just pointed out, like, basic, like, well, clearly this person is in over their head and they can't do this job. And people have been like, no, that can't be true. And I'm just like, what other conclusions can you come to? Like, this is the fifth time they've made this particular type of mistake. Like, I don't, like, at a certain point, where's your line, right? And we are living in a boundaryless chaos world where people don't have lines. Because people will go, well, of course there's evil people, and I go, okay, can you name an evil act? And they actually can't, and I'm like, so you claim to believe in evil, but if I ask you, like, what would be an evil act, you can't list one. What is going on? That that's bad. That's as bad as it gets. You ask these people for any boundary. I mean, they'll tell you boundaries exist, and you go ahead and ask them to draw a boundary somewhere, and they won't be able to. And that's why we're having chaos everywhere. That's why it's Muppet madness. That's what's going on. Like, it's bad. People are a mess now because they can't draw the line. They can't do it. They can't figure it out. They can't work it out. They're so confused. And so they blame outside or exterior conditions instead of blaming something reasonable, right? The reasonable thing to blame is the person who's doing the action. And when you can't do that, you end up with these weird frames like, oh, it's just politics, or it's the, psychic space dragon of capitalism, or, or it's the bureaucracy, right? I mean, and these are the excuses I'm hearing left, right, and center. And I'm like, those items that you're listing are not agents in the world. They aren't doing anything at all. Like, that's not how it works. People do things. That's and there are people doing the things, and we know who they are. But, like, even Sam Harris doesn't care. He said so. I don't care if we know whose basement is full of dead babies. Okay, Sam, I believe that you're an amoral piece of garbage. I believe you. Also, you're an amoral piece of garbage, but, like, I don't doubt you for a minute. And Constant Kitchen agrees. F the babies in the basement. Okay, dude, I guess you also do not have a moral compass whatsoever, right? There's no ethics in that room. Fair enough. I get it. Also, we need to do something about that. And we do. But we're at the point where you can describe any kind of evil to any number of people and they shrug their shoulders. They don't seem to want to do anything about the evil. They don't, the first thing they do is try to make an excuse for it of some kind. And again, I don't think it's incompetence, Anselm. I mean, I used to hear that a lot, but I don't hear that anymore. What I hear is, oh, well, isn't it possible that blah, blah, blah? And they just make up a story. And I'm like, okay, so you don't know anything about the situation at all. And here you are fantasizing, because technically that's a fantasy, about what might have happened so that the person that did the evil act is not somehow evil, or the act itself is not evil. What is going on? Why do you think that's a valid thing? You don't know anything about the situation. Why would you immediately rewrite the story that you've been given? What is wrong with your brain? And people are doing that all the time now. And I'm like, why do you think this is a valid, and then everyone goes, well, people need more empathy. I'm like, what? It would be nice if people would just listen to what they were told and believe it. And if you're not going to believe it, that's fine. Go away. Don't talk to me. Like, why are you talking to me if you're not going to believe the things I tell you? That makes no sense to me. If you're not going to believe what I tell you, that's fine. Don't talk to me. I have other things to do anyway. I won't miss it at all, I promise. But they want to rewrite the story so that there's no evil people, or there's no evil in the world, or both. And that's what they do. They imagine a scenario where whatever you said is not the case, or is excused by some other force, which usually isn't even a force. It's psychic space dragon capitalism, or politics, whatever that's supposed to mean this week, or it's and economics makes this inevitable. It's like, but economics is a measure of actions taken in the world by people. Like, that's what it is. It's a hindsight bias, post hoc rationalization of trade events. That's what economics. It doesn't cause anything. Like, I don't understand. And so we're trapped in this madness, in this Muppet madness, because everyone's a freaking Muppet and they don't realize it. Have you considered? You should buy a mug. That's what you should consider, buying a mug, so that you can remind yourself. And all these people you're listening to, I mean, almost all of them are also Muppets. And all the people in the British government now are Muppets. Like, wow. The UK used to have a healthy monarchy where people were at least trained in leadership, and so they weren't at least bad at that. And now they're just contradicting each other every other day, and themselves, like, constantly. And it's like, what are you guys doing over there? That's not like, you're just fomenting chaos. Like, the order from above has broken down. People are going to mimic that. It's going to get ugly. This is why, like, I don't want my troops there. I'm like, all right, let's pull all the US troops home now. Right? Right now. Hanselman, worse than that. Lord save us. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's our only hope. Unfortunately, Hanselman. Because over there, they ain't got no good, strong leaders to come up and say, this is the way it is, and this is the way it's going to be. And if you don't like it, we're going to put you in prison. Right? And no one's willing to mete out consequences for anything. We have that problem too. Everyone's like, "Ooh, Trump is such a strong man." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? He didn't even lock up Hillary Clinton when he had the chance. He didn't fight for the stolen election. He didn't do anything. He doesn't want to mete out consequences for people either. I mean, he's doing better now, but still, like, are you kidding me? Do you know how many people I'd throw in prison? I'd take all their stuff immediately. Yep. All of your family assets are gone. Gone. Completely gone. Guilt, innocence, court? No, I don't think so. We see what happened. Fauci, family assets frozen. I'm not Karl Marx, but also wealth redistribution is a thing, and I'm happy to do it. Like, I've got lists. Steal their stuff because they didn't earn it, and give it to people who would earn it or would do good with it, instead of Fauci. Like, Fauci's just complete scumbag. Same trick twice, right? There's no, like, guilt, innocence on that. We already know he's guilty. Like, he already did it. He said he did it. Like, I don't know. Why do we need a court? And if you look historically, that's how it works. It's how it's always worked. Even the French Revolution, right? Like they didn't keep the court systems intact. They built an extrajudicial system. Now that ended up being bad because they were all bad people, but when you build extrajudicial systems that aren't bad, right? Or you just enact real justice or something, then it's not a problem. But we've got this court system where you just drag people out long enough and they go bankrupt. Why is that even possible, right? We're right to a speedy trial. Okay, you should give them 10 days. If they can't do it in 10 days, can't make the case, then whatever, then you lose. I'm fine with that. Get the lawyers off their ass and get them actually working. And you know, not all of them, but some of them, like, they just don't hustle. Well, if you're not willing to hustle for your job, then maybe you shouldn't have it, or maybe you just suck at it and you can do something else. I don't know. But like, really? And we have these long cases for no reason, years. It's like, why are we waiting years to find out the result of something that takes 10 minutes to determine? Not all cases are like that, but almost all cases are like that. Like the vast majority of cases actually just take 10 minutes. It's like, well, there's the evidence and there it is. And the problem is they'll flood you with evidence. They'll just bring paperwork. It's like, what does paperwork have to do with anything? I went to deposition. The guy was asking me about my first house. So when you bought your first house in 1996, yeah. What about the first house I bought in 1996? What does that have to do with your client? I didn't know you're a client. And then he's like, well, your mother helped you buy that house. I'm like, no, no, he didn't. No, no, she didn't. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even. So you made up a fantasy story because you don't have access to that information. So it had to be a fantasy story. It couldn't be anything else. And now you're using it in a deposition. Why is that even legal? And I mean, if you do that, that's fine. But you should go to jail immediately for that shit. And that's garbage. You can't do that. Why are we allowing this nonsense to happen? And that was just to scare me, right? That's all. It's an intimidation tactic. Intimidation of that nature doesn't work on me, so that was disappointing, at least for them. But like, why is that allowed? You're using an intimidation. I thought we were here for justice. I don't understand. Why aren't you in prison? Isn't that hard? We're living in this mad, mad world where those things matter. I was following this case in Massachusetts because everybody in Massachusetts is talking about it, and I just know too many people up there. And they're like, "Oh yeah, she's definitely innocent." I'm like, "No, she definitely said she hit him." Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't even understand why this is a case. She's on the phone on a recording. I hit him. I hit him. Okay, then you killed him, and that's that. Like, why are we having a court case? Like, this is not that hard, right? We'd have a court case over sentencing, but clearly he's dead, and clearly you hit him, and clearly you knew you hit him because you said on the phone, "I hit him twice." Fair, right? And then, well, but the cops did this, and there's some question over whether or not the shape of the car was the same when it was in the impound lot. And what? What difference does any of that make? The answer is none. It makes no difference. It's just there to confuse the jury. So that they can look at the pretty girl and go, oh, she couldn't have done anything wrong. She got off. Not guilty. OUI. That's it. OUI. I'm like, come on. She said she hit him. Why is this? Why are we here? Why are we having a court? That was 2 court cases, which is a whole other thing. I'm like, why are there 2 court cases? They should have thrown her in prison immediately and not let her out. Like, you didn't even need a court case for this. He said you did it. That's fine. You're going to jail. You killed a guy. What? I don't understand. Like, where's the magic behind this? Right? And then the lawyers just leverage all this stuff. I mean, they had like a dog bite expert, and I'm like, what does that have to do with driving a car drunk and hitting somebody in the snow? I don't understand. Like, why is this relevant to anything at all ever in the universe? But it's that agenosis again, right? It's, well, there's a fact related to the case. Well, how's it related? Well, I said it was. It happened in the same time period. The snow happened when there was a dog that bit somebody. Like, I don't know what difference does this make? But there's a fact in the case, and knowledge is the highest value, and so we have to hear it all out. And it's like, no, we do not. We only have to hear out relevant facts. Other facts are a distraction. The more distracted you get a jury or a judge or anybody, the easier it is for people to slide. And that's what happens, right? And then if you're just insistent enough, the judge will eventually side with you because that's how they make decisions in the courts. They've been doing this for years and years and years. I've watched it several times. They don't follow those procedures. I was thinking back. I've been in 3 big lawsuits, and in 2 of them, the judge just didn't follow the rules of the judiciary that they are required to by law at all. They just completely ignored them. In one case, I was denied the ability to show evidence in the case. Like, "Oh, no, we're not looking at that." Like, you don't have the option to not look at evidence in my case. Like, that's not a thing that a judge is allowed to do ever. Like, what are you talking about? And in the other one, I was denied a deposition. I mean, you can't deny me to depose the other person in the lawsuit. What madness is it? That's the world we've been living in for a long time. For a very long time. And they keep these things, like, up in the air. They keep floating things around so that you can't discern what's important and what's not. It's the flood. And that's what's causing the madness and the chaos is the flood. So look, that's all I got for you on Muppet Madness. But anything that's going on today, I probably don't know much about it because I try to avoid the news that you want to talk about. You know, I'll post the link and you can jump in and we can have like a chat about it. I can only ping the link on navigating patterns. Don't think I can kind of post it on Rumble here too, in case the alleged one person on Rumble who's watching wants to jump in. Yeah, I mean it is a mad time. Oh well, there we go. See, look at that. Posting link on Rumble means I can now tell that StreamYard will in fact look at Rumble posts. That's handy to know. Although why my username on Rumble is what is that? I don't know. But Rumble is a strange thing. I'm glad I got it all working again though. All the tech has been changing so that's the other thing, man. None of the tech's working now. Things are broken all over the place. I'm like, why is everything broken? Why is anything broken? We know how to do all this, and yet it's all busted. Also, you people have to tell me how my audio is because I did that talk with Gavin and didn't realize because there was no indicator that said this that my mic kept topping out. So I cranked down the mic gain, although that may not work because, yeah, once you know what horrible decisions they've made in technology, you kind of realize the ridiculousness of the mistake that they've made and why audio doesn't work anymore. It's just it'd be so easy to just use pipes. Just pipe the raw signal from here to here and just use the data that comes into that pipe and don't allow anybody to manipulate it in the middle because StreamYard, they do their own gain control. So if they don't set the gain right, there's really not much you can adjust because they set it. So it's like, why do you even have the power to set it? Why don't you just give me a meter and let me set my gain on my side? And then we can work with it that way. And there's no good answer to that question because they all suck. Handsome, my hearing's dodgy. So I'm never sure when it's me. Well, when I top out, like in the Gavin talk, when I was topping out, and we improved that, so apparently it was really bad. When I was topping out, I'd just get all fuzzy. But like I said, I cranked down the gain on the mic here. See, at some point too, the mic gain on the mic stopped working too. I noticed that. I'm like, why is the gain control like physically on the device not working? So but I have no way to tell because all the tools are lying to me now, and I'm like, I don't. understand what's going on. Also, I got to fix OBS. The last two recordings I tried to do with OBS to put on my personal channel, just OBS just stopped recording in the middle, like for no reason, and I'm like, wait, what just happened? And that happened, since I returned from driving around the universe. So yeah, I don't know what. I have no idea what's up. I don't know why all the tech is just changing and breaking, and nobody knows how to fix it. And it's bizarre to me as somebody who actually knows how all this stuff works and how easy it is to make it work, that it's so broken all of the sudden like this. It is so weird. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know why I'm living through this hell for no reason. But also, yeah, living through this hell for no reason. It's none of this is hard. But we've made it hard. We've managed to make it very hard indeed. And that's part of the madness that we're experiencing. And a lot of the madness is the myth that was holding us together is breaking down. And yeah, I don't know. That's when everything seems to be broken these days. Good. I'm glad it's happening there too. I mean, I'm sad that it's happening to any of us, but I'm glad it's not just me because yeah, it's things are so broken everywhere, and I'm just like, how is this gonna play out? Because eventually, everything's gonna be broken everywhere, and nothing's gonna work. And we had a big internet outage a while ago, so who knows? That might be happening soon, coming soon to a theater near you. And yeah, and all this tech was so well set up back in the day, and it worked so well for so many years. And you would just think that, well, we should know how to do this, but we don't. We definitely don't. In tech, a lot of the people that pioneer tech leave. Like they do their cool thing and they go do something else with their life. Happens all the time in tech. That was the moment I realized Ayn Rand was right about Atlas Shrugged. But her problem was Atlas shrugs all the time, and whole industries fail. Right? Not guaranteed or anything, right? Because some things live on, like Bethlehem Steel lived on for a long time after Carnegie and Frick were no longer there to run it. But momentum's an amazing thing. But like things in tech go away all the time. And it's sort of scary that everything's broken. But that's part of what I mean by Muppet Madness. Because that's what's going on. Things are like broken. Whole people are broken. As I was talking with Gavin, like I knew a family and they just like they broke. Like the father died and the whole family broke and they just turned into horrible people. Like what? What happened? No, they broke it broke. And that was sort of what Vervicki was alluding to, right? When he was like, if we don't hang together, we're all gonna fall apart. And it's like, yeah, but the problem is people like you were never hanging together. Like that's why when you go hang out with somebody, you're amazed. It's the only way that happens, by the way, right? Like you're only amazed by something when it's the first time you've done it. You're not really amazed after that because you're kind of, you get kind of used to it. And so it's sort of revealing. I go hang out with Jonathan Peugeot and I spend a lot of time with him. We go all these cool places and it's amazing. And it's like, oh, okay. But that's because you weren't in the game before. And so you're experiencing the game for the first time. Fair enough. When you experience a new game for the first time, it's amazing. But it's not like if we don't hang together, it's like, oh, no, 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 no. As I pointed out in my academia video, you weren't hanging out before. You were in the ivory tower isolated. And now that you've been forced to come out of the ivory tower because you yourself let the barbarians in, now you're like, oh no, but this is amazing. But oh no, I'm going to do my own course. Why don't you stop doing courses? Why don't you start doing retreats or pilgrimages? Oh, that's right, because you don't have a religion. you don't have a reason to go on a pilgrimage. That's why. And maybe the thing that allows us to hang together is religion. Least controversial take I can come up with on anything, but yeah, and I mean, I gotta finish listening to the Peugeot talk here that I was listening to earlier. Because I don't know what people are sort of proposing, right? What is it? It's with what is this guy? Winston Marshall. Yeah, I don't like Winston. Uh Winston's just whatever. He's all right, but like another clown. They're all clowns. Um they're not proposing like real solutions. Like what are we going to do, right? Because I don't think the solution is go to church. Like you don't replace the mythos with going to church. The mythos you tell sends you to church or encourages you to go to church or influences you to go to church. So the mythos matters. And then, like, I don't know, there was never a time in history where, like, everybody learned the same set of myths in the same culture, in the same society, in the same region. That never happened. There might be some myths in common, and usually they're children's myths. That might be a hint, by the way. So the unsophisticated myths are common and they remain and they persist. That sounds right. And then the more sophisticated myths are only for the more sophisticated people. Because not everybody can understand everything. And not everybody understands the same thing in the same way. And the poetic aspect of a myth only goes so far to fixing that problem. At a certain point, they're just concepts people aren't going to get. And I know a lot about that because I used to do corporate training for all kinds of technology, but did I ever, yeah, I trained a few people to code. Usually just direct person to person stuff. I don't like to teach programming because I don't believe in that. Like I don't believe you can teach people things. Like people can learn things and they can be guided to learn things. But they won't learn things even if you guide them, and you certainly can't teach them things. Like I don't, I think that's just a fundamentally flawed way of thinking about the world. Um, I was not taught to program at all. I wasn't taught to be a software engineer, but I, I did learn. So there you go, right? Learning is greater than teaching. Anselman, going to church often involves doing what you can to preserve what many of the hierarchs are trashing. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. There's so many. This is the problem in chaos. There's so many signals and so many stories. And yeah, I was trying to explain this to people on the call I was talking about earlier on Friday mornings. I was saying, like, you can look at Bitcoin or something as like, rise of the decentralized, individual revolution, right? Which it is not, and it cannot ever do that because you can't. All you want. And you can look at sort of the regime change in stocks from oil stocks being the largest cap stocks in the world to tech stocks being largest cap stocks in the world and draw some conclusions. But the problem is that stuff changes and those people don't view it that way at all. I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of AI adoption is, oh, Elon Musk has AI in X. Well, I'm going to put AI on my product too. That's probably 90% of the adoption is mimicry because that's how people work. It's just that when you have millions of dollars, you can afford to mimic Elon Musk. I can't afford to mimic Elon Musk because I don't have millions of dollars. Like it's that simple. Like you don't play in that space because you don't have those resources. Fair enough. Everyone's got spaces they don't play in because they don't have the resources to play in them. I'm not going to be, you know, the guy who dunks the basketball on the basketball court because I don't have the tallness resource. Like I just wasn't. I'm not 6'1". My father's 6'1". I'm not 6'1". This isn't going to happen. I don't have $1 billion to throw around through my companies, right? Because you can launder all that money effectively through the companies to put AI into my pet freaking social media platform that I wanted to have because Zuckerberg's a jerk and I hated his platform. And the guys who were running that platform were a bunch of ideologues. And so I just figured I'd buy it. And I scammed a bunch of investors to buy it with me. Good for me. Like they just play a different game and they see the world completely differently. And same for politicians. And the thing is, they're supposed to. The problem is when they're not good people, they don't do it well or they deliberately destroy it, right? Like what's happening in the UK. You know, on the one hand, I'm sad for the UK. On the other hand, I'm glad they're blowing up first because that allowed us to turn our immigration ship around a lot quicker. We're also a lot more nimble of a country because our government is so ridiculously decentralized. Um, you know, there were local, like city, like municipality laws, right? It's always been a fight here, right? We have these things in the US called sanctuary cities. There's like 6 of them in the entire United States. You know how many cities we have? There's like 6 sanctuary cities. It's an incredibly small representative sampling, but they're super loud. And then they all lost their federal funding. And now they're all like, well, maybe we're not a sanctuary city. It's like, yeah, well, you're going to get rid of your immigrants now because we're not going to give you a dime of federal funds. And then the states are in trouble because they're like, well, we're not going to fill that gap. The federal government has way more money than any of the states do. Oops. Right. So, like, what are you going to do? But they're playing at a different level. I can't declare the city a sanctuary city. I'm not the mayor. So I'm never playing that game. You know, and maybe I could get into politics and do that if I wanted to. I doubt it, but I don't want to. If elected, I will not serve. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I can't imagine me in the federal government. Yeah, lock them all. I'd just be arresting people and throwing them in prison left, right, and center. Nope. You have been deemed to be evil. Goodbye. For sure. Right. This is why I can't be in politics. People told me for years, like, "Oh, you're going to be a lawyer." I'm like, "Are you kidding? I could be a lawyer. I'd have to have people killed. They're not following the law at all. Like, they're not even pretending." One case was so bad that one of the lawyers waiting for his case to be called followed me out. And he said, "I saw what happened there. I feel really bad. Maybe my friend can help." And he gave me his friend's card. He said, "I got to get back in there." And I said, "Well, thank you." But as an officer of a court, did he report the judge's bad behavior? No, of course not. They never do. They've taken an oath to do that, by the way, in the US, and they never have. And it's not just the lawyers. The lawyers, the judges, anybody who works for the court system takes an oath to report any kind of even suspiciously legal behavior. And they never do it. They never do it. This is the world we're living in, guys. And that's the problem is that, you know, it looks to you like one bad thing is happening and maybe the bad thing is affecting you in a negative fashion. But like someone's got to take the hit. Are you sure that because it's happening to you it's a bad idea? Cuz I'm not. I don't know. I don't see that layer of the world necessarily. And we can make inferences, right? You could say like, well, Bill Clinton in the mid 90s changed the financing laws, the banking laws in particular, to accelerate the economy to make it look like the United States was growing when in fact it wasn't. Money was just moving faster through the system. And part of the process of those changes, aside from legalizing electronic signature, which automatically caused fraud to go through the roof, you can see it on the graph. It's really hysterical. Law passed. And reducing liability for credit card companies for that fraud at the same time was a bad idea, right? And people like me almost, well, I lost a lot of money because I was running a float and they took it away overnight without telling anybody. And had I known like 30 days, I needed maybe 30 days. I needed 60 days warning. If I had 60 days warning, I probably would have been okay. And I mean, ultimately, it wasn't that loss because A, I was still young, and B, it's not, it's not like I lost $1,000, right? So it wasn't a big loss. But like they had like $500 in like bounce check fees. And I was like, bro, I didn't bounce any of these checks. What are you talking about? And they agreed to wipe them all out. But then I couldn't play the float anymore. And I was like, you sons of bitches. Like the banks could float money and make interest, and I couldn't. And it's not even like I would float money and make interest because you couldn't make interest, but I was playing the float because it was an equal float for the banks and for the people. And then they were like, no, no, no. What we do is we count all the withdrawals in the morning and we count all the deposits in the afternoon. And I was like, you do what? You're reconciling midday your books and you took away the float at the same time. So I can't even deposit the money to cover a check I write. So if I write a check on a Tuesday and I deposit the money on a Tuesday, the check can bounce. I was like, you sons of bitches. I was pretty pissed off. But like they did get rid of the fees. So that was something. Was that the wrong thing to do? Like, I don't know. Maybe the US was in trouble at the time tax wise, and not accelerating the economy would have been a bad idea and would have had bad side effects. I actually don't know. I'm still angry, and Bill Clinton should be in jail for a myriad of reasons. And I just add that to the list because I can, because I know about it, because it impacted me directly, immediately. Yeah, I was in court once, and there were these ads on TV that had been on for 5 years, right? So it's just probably prior to 2008, actually, to the housing crisis. And so there's all these ads, right? And in these ads, they're advertising, take out a mortgage for 120% of the value of your house. And I'm like, what? Well, first of all, who's dumb enough to do that? And like, what is going on like that? And that used to be illegal. So I was like, what happened? What changed? So I was in court for this. This is one of the judges that denied me the ability to show him evidence. Can't bring evidence to the court with you. I'm like, well, I can't afford to pay this. Like, A, I don't owe it, and B, I don't have the ridiculously inflated value. Like, this is a $4,000 thing, and you've made it 15 grand. 15 grand back then was a hell of a lot of money. 15 grand now is like gas and groceries for a week, but back then it was a hell of a lot of money. And I was like, but this is originally a $4,000 dispute. Like, how did we get to $15,000? This makes no sense. And the judge was like, well, you have this, you obviously have money because, you have a house. I'm like, the house, like, I just bought the house. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I just refinanced the house. Like, I don't have any money. I don't have 15 grand. Like, my God, like I was like all the money I need to live for a year back then. Like, that was a cheap load of money. And he was like, well, no, I mean, you must have cash because your house has, 20% of its value left. And I was like, yeah, that's because I topped it back up to 20% when the price went up because all these bad things happened and I needed the cash. And he went, yeah, but you couldn't have done that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, nobody lets you do an 80-20 loan. And I was like, they're doing 120% of home value loans. What are you talking about? And the judge had no idea what he was talking about because he didn't watch TV. And I was just like, what? Okay, this is on TV every day. Like literally every day you saw one of those commercials from a different company. That's how badly they were pushing mortgages prior to 2008. They were pushing mortgages like they were candy. We're practically trying to give them away. I don't know what the full scam was. You can see my video on Domicile Losing a Home, which I posted on Twitter earlier today, actually. Um, these are real, like, this has been a real problem for a real long time. But again, who's to say that accelerating the economy and all that wasn't a good idea and necessary for the US as a whole? Even though it definitely hurt me, right? Like, I don't know, because I don't have that perspective. I've never been the president or even in the federal government. I worked for the federal government, but not in any reasonable capacity. I was just a contractor boy. So, in the military at that, man, working for the military is a disaster. That place is, the military is wild. The US military is wild. Um, Great place to, have a contract with, but it's another thing. We've hired nothing but military contractors. Not good for combat. Mercenaries bad. But yeah, who knows? The world went mad a long time ago. Uh, it's okay to say the myth of World War II is breaking down, but man, you better have something to replace it with, buddy. And I don't think you do. And I think it needs to be a simplified story, much like the myth of World War II is. I don't think we can get away without that. Now, that's not the universal story you give to everybody, although maybe you give it to everybody, but you give other people better, more nuanced stories. So every time somebody says nuanced, I'm like, you and your 5-cent Harvard words. Well, actually, they're 30-cent Harvard words now, inflation. Um, I see what you're doing there, right? You're saying, oh, you need a smart person's position. No, you don't need a smart person's understanding or position on this issue. That's actually not true. You need to know what you need to know to do what you need to do. That's what you need to know. You don't need to know what's going on in Iran and Israel. Who cares? This does not affect me, and it will never affect me. Contrary to what a bunch of people might believe about the rapture or whatever. uh, at this point, I'm like, I don't believe you. Let's see what happens if we wipe Israel off the map. How's that? Does that mean no one gets into heaven? Like, what is it? Like, it's nonsense talk. That's part of the problem. It's nonsense talk. And it really doesn't affect people living outside those countries. And it shouldn't. You shouldn't worry about it. And if we could get it out of the news and out of the zeitgeist and off the internet, which of course we can't, the world would be a better place instantly. That's not an option now, because that's the ultimate sin, apparently. Like the worst of the worst. There's only one evil in the world. One. The representation of that evil was Hitler, but that wasn't the evil. And this is the problem. Like, this is why we're in madness. This whole myth is breaking down. People don't know what to do. They have no idea where they're going, where they're coming from, where they came from. Get the, what is it? The 1619 project is just packed full of ridiculous statements that can't be true. And just, and then there's a battle, right, for accuracy. Well, actually, right? It's like, well, that's fantastic. But you know what? Knowledge never changed anything in the world once. Only action changed. By definition, it's definitional, but it's not like you can get around it by adding more words or some metaphysical framework. Action is the thing that we use to describe things that change the world. That's the word. If it changes the world, it's an action. Saying things, knowing things, talking about things, that doesn't change the world. They're not actions. Sorry. Is it better than nothing? Depends what nothing is. I'm in the world. You're in the world. That's not nothing ever. Right. I do actions. You do actions. You can communicate a lot through your action, a lot more than you can with words. A lot more. And when we don't know that, when we don't imbibe that, when we don't live that, when that's not part of our being, that's when the world goes mad. So the way out of that is to take action in the world, to do things local to you that make a difference to you and your family. That's the way to do it. Conversations, debates, discussions, good entertainment. And the rise of entertainment is due entirely to the recession of the church. When the church recedes, the thing we have most in common is entertainment. Look around, you'll see it right away. Wait a minute, why are these people popular? Right? And that's one of the things Protestant churches take advantage of. That's what a megachurch is. It's entertainment. That's why it looks like entertainment, because it is, in fact, entertainment. It's not that hard. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Right. Entertainment by any other name, using any other means. Oh, look, they've got an electric guitar. Yeah, so does the rock concert. Weird, huh? It's all entertainment. But that's not what we should have in common. Right? We need something higher than mere entertainment in common. And we don't have that anymore. That's the recession of the church. That's the primary problem. It's not the only problem, but it's the primary problem. Super important. And now that people are seeing it, it's good because I can talk about it, but still, like, we're so far away from implementing solutions around any of this stuff. And man, if one more person comes up with one more stupid course, I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's driving me nuts. These stupid courses. More education got us here. Like, I don't even know why that would be controversial. They used to brag about it all the time. More of the world's population is educated than ever before. Fair enough. And everything fell apart. That wasn't a hint at all. You learned nothing from this. Nothing. You've learned absolutely nothing from that correlation. Is it random? It just happened to happen that way. Come on. At a certain point, you may have, quote, educated people, whatever you think you mean by that, but it certainly correlates with making the world worse. And at the same time, you gave them little freaking knowledge box. And it's full of mostly lies. What good was that? How do you know what's true and what's not? Well, you're on your own, kid, because it's all individualism. You have to figure it out by yourself in individualism. You don't have a choice. This is why individualism is evil. It's no good. Like, it's a stupid idea. It's completely wrong. You're a person. You're connected to other persons. You're connected to nature, right? And you're connected to yourself. At a minimum. If you want something in common with others, well, then you got to connect even higher. Handsome. It depends what the content of the education was. Well, that's everybody's theory. They think, no, we'll just educate you differently. Well, no, you won't, because the thing you're calling education is not education. And the thing you're doing is also not education, or the thing you're calling education. You're just misusing words. What you're describing is formation. And you're not doing formation. You're putting material online for people to consume. That's consumerism. So this course that you made is not education, and it's not formation, and it's not teaching, and it's not training. It's none of those things, actually. But even if it was those things, it wouldn't matter. The materials you are given and how you are given them is irrelevant. You cannot be forced to learn. What and how you learn matters a little bit. More importantly, how. Dale Farron has some great work on this. If you send kids to a place where they have to sit at a desk and take tests and be told things and read books at a young age, they do poorly. The younger the age, the less well they do. It was the best case ever for John Vervaeke's participatory knowledge, which apparently is new to him because pilgrimages work. Yeah, participatory knowledge is important, John. You used to say this all the time 5 years ago, and now you seem to have forgotten it entirely. And now you're shocked when it works. A little weird. Let's get a video too on his channel, and the thumbnail was a total riot. Now I got to remember what the thumbnail was, but it was really funny. Um, let me call it up. But yeah, it just some of the stuff he was saying, I was just like, "Oh yeah, practice over theory." It's like, so here's a video whose thumbnail is practice over theory. And it says, embarking on the philosophical Silk Road, exploring pilgrimage and theosis. What? Let's go to church, bro. It is another QA that says it's upcoming, although we don't know when. Seeing God again for the first time. You can't see something again for the first time. Like, I don't know why people talk like this. I'm like, could you maybe try speaking in English? It's a new thing we've been trying called communicating in a common language using common understanding. Anselman, would you say a proper formation should be attempted in local communities, churches, etc., as was once the case, or homeschooling cooperatives? Yeah, look, this is not that hard, right? You have to understand the hierarchy. And I have the plan for the hierarchy video. I got massively sick this week, unfortunately, so I got knocked out, and I'm still trying to recover like everything from my brain. But I have the way to. In fact, the research is done too. The AI did a bunch of research for me. I have to go read it. Um, I have a way to do the hierarchy video, so that's going to come to try explain hierarchy in a way that makes sense. And I think I can pull it off now because I think I figured out a way to do it. That's Castle's fault because he had me out in Pennsylvania. Um, you have to start at home. No one's punishing their kids, right? No one's been punishing their kids. Everyone's been like, what do you want to do next, right? No one's, oh, I'm all worn out as a parent because I'm taking the kids to do like 5 different after school activities, every day of the week. Why are you letting them do that? Force them to focus on one thing and become really good at it instead. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you catering to the wants and needs of your child? There was a commercial like that too. We watch very little TV, but we watch Amazon Prime, and now they've gone to commercials because they weren't bilking you for enough money. So now you got to watch stupid commercials. So one of the commercials, just like the mother asks him, single mother too, right? There's no father there. What do you want to do next? To the young daughter, and the young daughter's just telling her this, that, and the other. I'm like, what is going on? I mean, all the best learning experiences I ever had were things I was dragged to do that I did not want to do initially. Sorry, just I bet that happened to you too, whether you realize it or not. Um, and we've so at that layer, yeah, at the community layer, yeah, you need good community schools, and if you don't have good community schools, then yeah, you'll have to homeschool because what choice do you have? That's the layer up, though, in the hierarchy, and both layers of the hierarchy are important. And this is what we keep missing. Formation is not one thing in one place. Formation happens at all the layers. And maybe it doesn't happen at all the layers for you because maybe you weren't born into the nobility and you don't need to know how to lead large groups of people that you don't know. But the nobility does need to know that. And that is what they used to specialize in. And that was what they were trained for. And you should be trained for that because you're never going to do it. It's really not that hard. Right? Like, if you're not going to write software, don't take software engineering courses. Like, we do this all the time. Why is this invalid at that higher level? Because that's really what we're arguing about, right? Anselman, that theosis has become a cliched buzzword. Yeah, well, everyone's using it because everybody wants in on the cool thing. and they're all mimicking one another. Oh, this person I really admire who really says smart things uses the word theosis. So now I'm going to use it. Yeah, I agree. That's definitely happening. I'm disgusted by it, and I want to shoot everybody who uses the term now for sure. Like, what are you talking about? Why isn't this a deeply private thing that no one ever discusses with anybody else except their priest? Because it's how it used to work. That's what we need to get back to. Hanselman, I did find it very helpful and enjoyable that my parents provided encyclopedias in early age. Me too. But I was maybe just a weird child. Right. I mean, that's the problem. Like there was a wave early on of like encyclopedias. I had How It Works, which was a great multi-volume set. And then I had Encyclopedia Britannica, right? I had all the stuff. And my father also went and got his PhD in English literature, right? So we were like an education first family. So a lot of people say like, "Oh, Mark, you're really well read." I'm like, actually, I'm not because I'm dyslexic and I just don't actually like to read because it's painful. But thanks, right? It just goes to show like you don't need to read. You don't need to. That's a load of garbage. Reading's not going to save the world. Reading's garbage. Why did my camera fall down? There we go. A little bit happier with the camera there. I don't know what happened. Why are people reading all the time? Like I don't. Books are dead. Can't have a conversation with a book. I used to talk to a lot of people that were like in their 90s, like whenever I could. And my grandmother died in her 96. Um, that's where you like find things out. Not that you shouldn't have encyclopedias and stuff, but like they're a special use case. And you should like children that like this is where the confusion is, right? So they go and they do all these studies in the US and they say, oh look, all these people in the upper middle class that go to college, because only the upper middle class could afford college. Also true, but that's not why they went to college, but that's a different issue. Mm. They do better. Okay. But also they started out as children of upper middle class parents. So they had a head start. Like they have momentum. That's why I did my momentum video. They had momentum from birth. That happened. Well, I want to be Elon Musk. Okay. Oh, I'm smart like Elon Musk. Okay, maybe you're twice as smart as Elon Musk. I don't know. I don't care. Never met Elon Musk. You don't seem that smart to me, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt because I don't care. Sleep under your desk? Well, no, I would never sleep under my desk at work. Okay, you're not going to be Elon Musk. But, what if you would? Did your father give you and your brother $750,000 to play with and learn business when you were young? Oh, no, that didn't happen to you. Well, guess what? You're not going to be Elon Musk already because that momentum matters. You start out at a young age building businesses and failing when you are stupid and don't know any better. And if you are able to take away good lessons from that, because not all people are, then maybe you could be Elon Musk. But if that moment already passed for you, yeah, you need a new plan. Period. End of statement. You need all the components. You can't have one or two. And there's probably many more components that I have no idea about. And that's the problem. We want to be able to do anything or be anything at any time with no cost. And the cost is not just the work, but the focus. It's great. I mean, I know plenty of people that have great work ethic and they work really hard and they never work on the same thing for very long. They don't. And so they don't make any progress because they don't have any momentum and they don't have any focused goal. So they're just kind of bouncing around and changing direction all the time. Oh, I wonder why we can't all get along. I wonder why it's Muppet Madness. Well, that's why. And then everyone's anxious. Yeah, I wonder why. And actually, I have to kind of, not for sure, but maybe because in the past I've said this like, oh, well, you know, the idea of domicide attached to Alexander, the conquest of Alexander the Great, not a great case. Not a great case. But I have to back off on that. It might be actually a reasonably good case, but it would take more exploration, right? Like one way that when John made that case, it could be a really good case is that if there was a flood of pagan religions into Greece and Macedonia and the more stable Western uh, cultures, if there was a flood of new gods to worship, that would cause domicide. Because domicide isn't about like only where you live or something, although it is also about that. But it's also about what you're attached to above you. And if you have a flood of potential belief systems to adopt, that will cause domicide. You don't have to adopt any of them. You can keep your own. But if the ground of that weakens because other people don't keep it, that'll cause domicide. I think the reason why the US seems like a bunch of rebels, and it's really not. Like we just have the rebel mountains, the Ozarks and the Appalachians. Really. That's it. But the reason why they're all Scots Irish, so it's all Anselman all day long. That's all it is. Just Anselman cloned himself, lives in Appalachia. The reason why it seems like we're a rebel nation is because everyone's been in domicide since they got here, because they're all Protestants. And the more stable groups like the Quakers, who are oddly stable, and the more stable groups like some of the other denominations that we'll say we're in New England, like the Puritans, they didn't have the domicide, but they also had the momentum and they made a lot of progress. But I think that's since broken down because Protestant splitting is real and it can't hold together. And so new religions left, right, and center. And we're just in this madness, in this Muppet madness, this milieu of this churning, constant churning. Right? And that's the primary problem, is that it's domicide all the way down. For us, it's domicide all the way down. It's not rebellion. It's not constant revolution. But it is domicide because we don't have something holding us up above a nation. And this experiment does not work without God, according to the founding fathers. So, although I should go reread that because actually I think they were making a slightly bigger, the same point, but slightly bigger. Because I thought about it a little bit more and I was like, there's another way to interpret this. But I'd have to go back and read the original wording and do a little more research. But I may never do that because I'm lazy and I have plenty of other things I want to do. I think that the madness is due to that domicide. And it's just coming to a head. And yeah, the secular myths, because World War II is a secular myth, are breaking apart because they couldn't hold together. They couldn't do it. I don't like the post-war consensus talk. That's a load of garbage. The consensus is on the, and see, this is where the problem comes in with the actual set of mythos that comes in after the war. The consensus is what you're telling the lower classes. The consensus isn't what the upper classes believe about the war and what happened. They're educated. They don't have any unreasonable expectations about who was good and who was bad, right? You got to understand everybody thought Hitler was amazing. Everybody, except a handful of people. That's why he was on the cover of Time magazine. It's not that hard. It's not hard to figure out. Why was Hitler on the cover of Time magazine? Because everybody was looking up to him worldwide. Everybody. Sorry. Right? And the upper class probably still doesn't, to this day, view him as like the penultimate bad guy or the ultimate bad guy or anything. They just see him as another leader gone bad because sometimes you get bad leaders. That's how they see it. I guarantee you that's how they see it. They talk like that too. And that's also why you're seeing the problem in the UK, because you guys can't tell over there a good leader from a bad leader. Can't tell who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. And when you can't do that, you can't call out the good politicians from the bad politicians, because it's not like a good politician like doesn't have an affair, right? But that's what we're using. Like right now, primarily in the US. Did you have an affair? Because then you can't be in office. I was like, what? And of course, Bill Clinton unfortunately kind of broke that. Wish he hadn't, because that opened the door for, oh, so what? You have pictures of underage girls on your laptop? What? Like, why are you anywhere near anything that involves other humans? Like, jail for you, sir. Um, well, unbelievable, right? But like, you also can't call them out on any basis now, because even that trick doesn't work. Oh, you stole a bunch of money? Whatever. And that's the problem. The post-war consensus is just what you tell the masses. It's not a belief system that they hold. Handsome. They do seem to like the culture of death, abortion, youth in Asia, wars, etc. Well, yeah, I mean, again, the problem is like you have to see people in three groups, right? There's the people that know full well what's going on and they're driving towards a goal. There's the people that know that sacrifices have to be made and they're not, they don't know where the line is. And then there's the people that don't compromise. Now, notice that's not on quote ideological or philosophical lines, right? There's people that do not compromise. We can just call them Puritans or something for the moment, right? Or Anabaptists. They don't compromise either. And then just like that's always bad. It doesn't matter if you're uncompromising good or uncompromising evil. That makes no difference. Actually, they're both not good. Right. And so look, you don't want to kill Americans at Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, making steel in a location that is ideally suited to not only refine the steel from the ore, because you get it from the mountains on a train, but also then distributed the refined steel to two different ports, which are equidistant from you. That's pretty cool. But you know what? Every once in a while, you lose a guy. He's dead. His whole family devastated, right? Like, okay, there's still death there. Or you can kill, 10 children in Asia, and the Asians are happy to do it. And most of the country gets wealthy. Man, these are not easy decisions. Like, I'm sorry, right? And then there's the people who like, oh no deaths are acceptable. It's like, all right, well then Stone Age and death by other means it is. Like, I don't, like we all die. Like, what are we talking about? But those people are out there. And they're in every strata. They're in every layer of the hierarchy. And that, I think, is what's confusing people. The why that's confusing, I don't know. It's freaking straightforward if you ask me, but whatever. So, I mean, I can't indict everybody in the government of the UK, for example, because some of them know, well, there's a trade-off somewhere. Are we going to trade off our guys or theirs? It's a hell of a good question, man. And how many? Does it matter if they're children? They got a lot of, diseased children over there anyway. Man, my mother years ago, she was, they used to have these commercials on where they were talking about, what it is. Is it Christian Children's Charity or something? It's some charity. And all they do is go to South America and they take care of children under the age of 16 or 15 or something, or 14, something like that. And so they clothe them, they feed them, and they can stay with their families. They also run orphanages, I believe. or did at the time. But like they stay with their families, right? But they like support these children and they get the medical care and operations and all kinds of things, right? And then when they turn whatever age it is, it might be 14 or 12 or something. They will no longer help them at all because they're only there to help children. So you end up with are a bunch of child prostitutes on the street because they get thrown out, right? They get thrown out. So they're taken care of and then they're not taken care of. And now they're not equipped to do anything. And my mother was like, this is horrible. Like those kids would just die. And that would actually be better because the economy can't support all the children surviving anyway. And I was like, well, that's actually kind of a good point. They don't have rich land down there in these countries in South America with lots of poor people, and there ain't any jobs because it's not there aren't any jobs economically. It's like, well, you can't really grow food easily, and you can't do this easily, and you can't do that. Like nothing is easy because the land isn't very rich, and so like I don't know, man. Maybe it can only support so large a population, and you're over that number because that could happen, right? But it's hard to tell who knows and is malicious and who doesn't know and is just going along because they don't know where the line is. But right now, no one's drawing a line, which lets the malicious people get away with everything. Hanselman, I meant those in power promoting abortion, euthanasia, wars. Is it like again? It's some people are promoting things because they know there's a trade off, and some people are promoting things because they're evil. And that the problem is nobody has discernment, so you can't do anything about it, right? Because we haven't tried do this test. I've done it many times. You can go back to those little cults, for example. This is a great place to do that because their answers are always the same, non-existent. You can ask them if you think there's a boundary, like on anything. It doesn't even matter what the topic is. And then you ask them where the boundary is. You will never get an answer out of those people about anything. Because they just don't want to draw any boundaries around anything because boundaries are judgment. And they're not down for judgment. They're not down for judgment at all. Probably because they know they're sinners and they're the worst sinners. But they're not going to do anything about it either because they're lazy hedonists. There's nothing worse. So no one can draw any boundaries. Well, what do you do? Like I can tell you right now, Fauci should be in prison. Like that's easy. 10 seconds. Doesn't take any time at all. Like the guy said he was the science. Okay, we're done with you. You can go to jail. Like, it's a ridiculous statement to make. Right. And there's so many other single examples that prove without other examples. But like that gets a lot muddier when you're talking about other people. What about the old guy who said he was president but was checked out the whole time? Boy, that's a lot harder case to make. A lot of people can't make either of those cases. You can't show them evil and have them agree because they can't draw any boundary at all. To them, everything is equal or co-equal, whatever equal, ultra equal, extra equal, super equal. Ridiculous way to talk. And that's the problem. Right? No one wants to mete out consequences, Hanselman. I did have hopes when Strumpf was talking about jailing Hillary. Well, yeah. I mean, me too. I thought it might actually happen, but he didn't do it. But also he's a Democrat, so moderate, left-leaning moderates like Trump and Clinton stick together. And look again, like the other problem is, to a large extent, in most cases, they should, because again, what are you going to do? Are you going to say the only good leader never cheats on his wife? Because you're completely screwed. These are ridiculous ways to think about the world. Ethan, when you try to systematize almsgiving, it immediately becomes enablement. Well, that's true. Yeah, there's a larger lesson to almsgiving. And everything is so confused now because we're now drawing boundaries. Because nobody wants to mete out consequences. And nobody wants anybody else to either, unless it's their personal pet issue, in which case now they want someone else to fix it. You know who they don't want to fix it? Them. They don't want to do anything. And the thing is, especially with leadership, governments in particular, the way it works is the people direct the leaders to what to do. And I've often said this, like, look, you start like being violent towards people, and the government will have to do something. Sorry, but like that's how it has always worked historically. Always. It's never worked any other way. Right? The bottom informs the top, and the top informs the bottom. And that works differently. And what the decentralized population thinks is best for them, like these morons with the Bitcoin, you don't understand. You will never be able to compete with these other things, ever, under any circumstances. It's never going to happen. And you want to level the playing field because you think you're smart and you're going to outsmart people, and it's not going to happen because you're A, not that smart to begin with, and B, you don't have the momentum and the leverage that you think you do. 5 people can get together and beat you up. 5 people can get together, form a mining consortium for Bitcoin, and beat your Bitcoin mining into the ground until it's unprofitable for you. I don't know what to tell you. This is not the magic solution you think it is to equal the ground. Equal ground does not benefit anybody, but it does make everybody bereft of benefit. By definition, like that's what it would mean to be equal. And everybody goes, well, I don't know why we can't have nice things, because you're trying to make everything equal. Well, if everything's equal, no one has nice things. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I don't know why that isn't obvious. So, I don't know why this isn't easy, but apparently we are hell-bent on living in a chaotic world where we don't want to draw boundaries because then there'd have to be consequences, and we don't want to mete out consequences. We just want other people to mete out consequences. But we don't know how and when. Answering. By the way, I've grown to like the parrot. Well, Castle will be happy to hear that. Seeing the full beak from the different angle. Pretty Polly. I know, Polly's gorgeous. Yeah, Polly's a pretty little bird. I gotta fix. I gotta do one more round in the lighting department in my office here. Or I need to win the lottery and build the office that I actually should have. In which case I'll have a nice studio and I'll be able to do this better. Someday. I got meetings coming up next week. Pray for me, because we're on the dangling edge of disaster here. And I got to get the book ready because the book is here. So I have precious few copies, but I got to have a meeting. Shoot. Yeah, I got to set up 2 meetings. I got to have a meeting about the book so we can get you guys books. I only have like 10 copies. So we got to get the meeting with the printer set up so we can get as many copies as we need whenever we need them. And yeah, I'll be going to put that on the Shopify shop on markofwisdom/shop so you can get the books. I also have to work on the workbook. Oh, that was the other thing I lost. Shoot, I was in the middle of doing that too. Man, when I get sick, it's no good because I just lose track of everything. But I have it all somewhere. So it's good to have AI because AI is useful. All right, look, I've been at this for 2 hours. If no one jumps in, then I'm going to call it. But yeah, madness everywhere. Unless you guys get some more live stream questions here or live chat questions. I'll give it a few minutes. in case somebody is just like ready to jump in but hasn't decided. But I got my tea because, you know, thank you, Anselman. Thank you. I need it. I really need the one business thing and the patent to go well because that'll solve problems. That'll definitely solve some problems. I had a phone call from a relative yesterday, and it was a disaster. Like, it started out really well, and then it just evolved, and I was like, "I don't know how this got this way." But the delusion of people, you know, "Oh, you don't they have campers that are really cheap, and, you can just hook them up to your existing car. You don't have to buy a truck." I'm like, I could afford a tow hitch on one of my cars. Come on. Like, you guys have no sense of scale here. Like, I got all my money stolen, like, all of my money stolen. All of it. All of it. All of it and more than I had, which is why I'm in debt. And you think I'm gonna, like, buy a camper and a tow hitch. No. Lunatics. Oh, see you, Hanselman. Sleep well, my friend. Um, yeah, thank you for the company. Appreciate your, engagement as always. I never know if Anselman catches up on the live streams later. I should ask him one of these days. Does he actually catch up? Does he go back and catch what he missed or not? And then I got to get all the monologues. We're getting all the monologues done as recorded. So that's coming. And then, like I said, at some point, we've got to fix. We've got to fix the Rumble and get that back up to date. Oh, you do? Oh, good. Well, as long as you catch up. Sounds like a friend suggesting I buy a certain car. Yeah. Ethan, happy late birthday. Thank you, Ethan. Yeah, it was a good birthday. Watching Enter the Dragon is a good birthday because it was nice. I was still like reeling from illness, but that's okay. I'm still not back. Like, that's why I'm sitting here remembering, oh yeah, I have to schedule this, and oh yeah, I have to finish that project, and oh yeah, I got to finish the workbook for the book. But yeah, should be another week. Maybe the end of next week we'll have the book ready for pre-orders because that's what we have to do next is pre-orders. And then once it's up for pre-order, then we'll be able to get the printer to ship them out. It helped to have the number of pre-orders up front and have the workbook ready at least, even if it's not printed, so that people can get the workbook pretty quickly after the book. And then we'll see who's doing what about the meaning crisis. Um, we'll see. All right, guys. No one's jumping in. I'm gonna wrap it up. I appreciate everybody watching, and tell your friends, threaten your relatives, whatever it takes. Got to boost the channel a bit. Um, and I got some more good stuff coming. I know I got to work on the animation. That's another thing haven't been able to work on. But we'll get that out soon. That's going to be fun. That's another perspective thing. Hopefully explaining things. And then I do have hierarchy in my head. I just got to get it done. So I appreciate everyone's engagement. And I know it's mad out there. And I know I keep telling people it's going to get worse. And it is. It's going to get more chaotic. But take care of yourself and those closest to you. And, remember that the world needs you to be better. I will see you next week.